I know all of you can barely wait for me to announce today's topic, and trust me, I can't wait either. Welcome back to our 12th episode of Spiritual Mantra, also halfway to our journey together. Time flies at rapid speeds, but holding to the present moment and enjoying it in every bit is the very essence of life and soulful living. Namaskaram, Swagatam, Suswagatam, Namaste, and hello. Just on the threshold of 50% of our first season of Spiritual Mantra, I thought of bringing a very interesting topic for all of you. Hoping you will love it and open yourselves to the powers of synchronicities and mysteries and for the universe to play its role. I am here with all of you for the next 12 episodes, including today's. In past 11 episodes, we have covered the following topics. First was the basic fundamentals of spiritual myths and facts. Spirituality, a plot twist. The second episode was focusing on spiritual style statement. The third episode was a sequel of the spiritual style statement, but with an aromatic essence to elements as our focus. Fourth was the start of our journey to understand the seven chakras in general. The fifth episode was the start of the focal point chakras correlating to the zodiacs. Subsequently, the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th episodes were on the chakra specific topics. And today we are on our mid series of the spiritual mantra and about to explore a very interesting aspect of spiritual healing, the mystical portal, your universe. So today we will cover a bit of ancient healing practices, sciences, symbols, metaphysics, and its relevance in recent practices. Somewhere, sometime, someplace, some people, or all of you have experienced something unusual, something unbelievable, some phenomena seen with those eyes and not believed by so many. I have too. And we all have been there. And those who didn't yet will soon be there. So, why is that we shrug our shoulders and move on? Why don't we take a moment or even muse over the magical experience? It's simply because we have all become very attuned to only one type of connection, the Wi Fi and the 5Gs. Well, in fact, the word cloud does not ring a bell, and we don't look up to the mysterious skies. Cloud also means something in technology. Well, I'm not anti technology or anti progress. Instead, I'm trying to take you there. Do you know everything that evolved or everything that was ever innovated started somewhere in the ancient past? If everyone is acquainted with the epistemology, it's the theory of knowledge. This study with truth, belief, and justification sets the main examples consequently in order for something to be considered as knowledge. Isn't science based upon the fact itself? All of the science? Taking you back in the pre Buddha era, somewhere around the 5th century, the first ever great epistemologist started his first school on this philosophy. If you relate to the name Kapila, as some believe it was during that time, 6th, 7th, or even maybe the 5th century, the first masters of the Samakya, the school of Hindu philosophy. There are many places the name Kapila is referred to, and there is a possibility that Kapila would be referred to many different people in the history or orbiting just around one. Above this, the most interesting part in the school of thoughts that believe Kapila was an avatar of Brahma. And I would like to read out a verse Lord Brahma stated in Bhagavata. The destroyer of deception has come forth. His teachings will traverse the globe. setting it free from the knotted ropes of ignorance and confusion. He will become the leader of hosts of people attaining perfection. He will become the exemplar of the sciences and will speak with excellent and full deliberation upon authority. With the name Kapila, he will be celebrated throughout the world. There were two approaches to the epistemology, and there were two Kapilas as we date back. One that came from the pre Vedic times, Devhuti's Kapila, and his philosophy was based on Avaroha and is a top down approach where the command seeks the authoritative knowledge, also known as the Sabda, which then guided the rationale or the logic, also known as the Anumana, or an approximation to a closer of the truth. And the process is continued further by educating the perceptions, which is also known as Pratyaksha. On the contrary, the other gentleman, named again as Kapila, or rather called himself Kapila, somewhere between the 6th or the 7th century, followed the Viroha, and the school of thoughts or philosophy began with the perception, which is the Pratyaksha, constructing the logical rationale or the Anumana, and then arriving to the Sabda or the authoritative knowledge. Unfortunately, though, the latter Kapila's approach to science influenced the Greeks, who then created the modern science that dominates our current world. We give a standing ovation to our technology and our modern reach today, which unknowingly has actually stemmed from the exact opposite principles and philosophy that define science and knowledge. Think about it. Our approach was always insufficient compared to the former Kapila because anything that is subjective is conditioned to be flawed or limited. And guess what? We started off with perception. Our progress followed Viroha, which is perception first, and perception is subjective. You must be wondering, where is the mystery in all this? I'm coming to it, but before that, I really want all of you to start going back to ancient roots. That's the first time realization, innovation, and scientific findings ever happened. Without gadgets, technologies, internet, Wikipedias, or any kind of resources or libraries. If that was the case, how did they achieve what they achieved? The wisdom they left behind as legacy, which we followed, later on improvised, customized, and to some extent diversified for good or bad. I want all of you to stay still with my narration on Kapila, also known by some as the incarnation of the sacred being who came to earth to teach liberations through the spiritual balance and through bhakti yoga. He was also well known as a spiritual philosopher and owned immense wisdom. His students then built a city called Kapilavastu, which apparently to some was also the city where Buddha was born. In fact, both shared many similarities, including their focus on meditation to conquer inner sufferings. His name meant the red one and is associated with sun. And like the sun, he put light on the world by giving expositions to metaphysics and creative elements. In fact, he was the one to give the meaning, the essence to theism is a theory of one single factor or defined superpower responsible of all creation, or monotheism, which also means one single god or divine power who originated the universe, or the Sampurna Brahmand, or even Shrishti. The one supreme power also created world, us, the Manushya, which is the humans. If we stitch all this together, you will start to realize why I took all of you, my listeners, way behind in the pre-Buddha era, in world of gods and demigods. Metaphysics exposition by Kapila is not just a branch of science discussed in today's world. Its very existence dates way back in the ancient Puranas, also in the sacred writing, the oldest of which dates back to the 4th century. Metaphysics means the study of non physical experiences in humans, that which cannot be measured by any physical means. It's a philosophy that concentrates on all realities, the relation between mind and matter, the appearance and substances, form and matter. So, what does metaphysics actually mean? When you dwell in the spiritual world, you generally come across the term spiritual metaphysics. Now, if we break this two syllable word, meta means above and beyond, and physics is indicative that all things are governed by universal laws, physical and spiritual. There is an order to everything, and metaphysics looks at our system of design and its creation by infinite intelligence. Some people refer to this as God or Source, energy, or a myriad of other names. Universal laws are an extension of this infinite intelligence being. In other words, metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that examines the composition of the universe and the beings that reside within it, including us. If we go back to where we all started and follow a top down approach, which begins with authoritative knowledge guiding the logic, which in turn educates the perception, we create a boundless pool of potential for ourselves. Our performances and our prosperity enhances tenfold. So does our health and overall wellness. My series of mystical path may end up being in two parts. If we run out of time today, nevertheless, both the paths will be made very interesting and engaging, and that's my promise to you. Our spiritual journey plays a big role in the authoritative knowledge, wherein the initial knowledge is taken by sources, books, and supreme beings. It all starts with a humble feeling to know more and the awareness that you still have to attain a lot more knowledge. And this quest leads you to the ultimate power of wisdom, ruling the logic and the perception. Have you ever wondered how did the Mayans, the ancient Eastern Indians, or the Greeks, the ancient Europeans ever knew things? Facts like celestial mechanics, perceptives on quantum physics, or as a matter of fact, even architecture. For example, the pyramids of various times in Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Western Asia, Greece, Cyprus, Italy, India, Thailand, Mexico, South America, and on some islands of Pacific Ocean. The science of their sustainability, their stability, the still standing monuments, the 2000 years old and older ancient temples of India, the symbolic similarities of setting the stones, the use of the lime mortar, the structure of the module theory, similarities in between India and the South America based monuments, the similarities of the old Sanskrit and Tamil scriptures on architectures of the great Shiva temple in Tanjavur in South India, approximately 1,000 years ago, all these indicates there was a common origin to our ancient civilization. The dialect's similarity throughout, some based with foundations of Sanskrit, is indicative parameter by itself. The theory of Mayan, the originator of the ancient Indian architecture, originated from the ancient Mayan civilization from South America. Mayan has been mentioned several times as the author of Maya Matam, the concept of Mayan, a text on Vastu Shastra, art architectures, and town planning. He also appeared in Ramayana in 2000 BC and Mahabharata in 1400 BCE, wherein he designed the palace for the Pandavas. I articulated smaller relevant facts of our ancient cross connections of theism, theories, and history, broadening our own understanding of the spiritual placements in each of us, making us all spiritual beings. Some attuned well to their higher self, and some still going there, no more or less. So, whatever you heard till now spoke of progress, science, theories, and philosophies, dating back from almost the 5th century and older. All this was possible by just inward discovery as spiritual attunement to intellect, the ultimate authoritative knowledge that not only built civilization and structures which still stands today, they also studied astronomy and space. They also concluded that earth was round by simple scientific theory of reflection of earth on moon and sun during eclipses. They built calendars as per the phases of moon, and they were the first one to calculate years as per seasons and the earth's rotation as day and night fell. They not only set all the fundamentals right, but also left behind immense knowledge that evolved and we built a world as of today. Just imagine with all the tools and amenities, the progress in technology, the limit that they would have reached. Need I say much on this? So, what's missing in our world? Why are we stagnant with limited theories? Simply because somewhere in the daily chaos we forgot to take an inward journey. We have forgotten our ancestral power of growth, wisdom, and health. It is said that it is never too late once you set your mind to reinvent yourself from inside out and make it feasible and very possible. Let's take a stepwise approach and let me bring all of you up to speed to the importance of certain spiritual practices and its beneficial impacts on your everyday living. Between today and my next episode, I will cover the following ancient practices that unifies to your inner self to the infinite wisdom of existence of matter, mystery and mind and also finds the answers to all ills. We we will start with the importance of meditation and mindfulness, an inward journey to the outer world. According to a great French philosopher who quoted once, the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. With so many demands on our time and lifestyles, it practically becomes a task for us to find time for ourselves. And when we do find time, we are busy finding best ways to meditate. It's ironical, but it is true. The whole idea of meditation has become so complicated that it's become competitive about who connects well, very well, or does not connect at all. It's become socially embarrassing in the spiritual pursuits. And by itself, it's a non starter. And I seriously want all of you to start. And to start meditating, the first thing you need to do is to stop looking elsewhere. Stop looking to join a forum. Start by yourself in your space, on your terms, within your time. Start with a simple mindful exercise and reach deeper and deeper each day, and you will automatically start seeing improvements in your personal and social standings, enhancement of performances, and will experience bliss. You will find faster recovery of self from adversity. So, today I will have you head start with a small exercise. It's called the Wheel of Awareness. This exercise will enable your internal quest for awareness of yourself and the outward world. The goal of this will be to expand your awareness of self internal experiences to outward world of external experiences. A full circle of connection and knowing. For this you need to be comfortably sitting on a cushion on a floor or simply a chair with your back spine straight position. You can either be in a yoga pose or if not comfortable sitting down on the floor, you can be sitting on a chair and in that case still your back should be straight and shoulders relaxed. Close your eyes and first start with focusing on your breathing. You don't have to refine your breathing, just focus on your regular breathing. Become aware of your rhythm as is. Become aware of the rhythm of your breathing. There's no need to change your breathing in any way. Simply notice. The second step is to visualize the wheel. Now bring your mind to the image of a wheel. This wheel has a center known as the hub and four sections or the quadrants. The first quadrant actually connects to the five senses. I'd like to invite you now to first turn your attention to the top left quadrant, which houses your five senses. This will help you focus on your sense of taste, sense of hearing, sense of smell, sense of knowing, and sense of touch. The second quadrant connects to the bodily sensations. Now, I'd like to invite you to turn your attention to the top right quadrant, which houses your sixth sense. It helps you focus on your intuition, your visions, and your decisions. Then comes your third quadrant that connects to the mental activities. So, when you focus on this third quadrant, it is very important that you focus on your thoughts, how your mind, how stable is your mind, or where all your mind is actually going, I mean, wandering. That's the kind of focus, and this gets refined as and when you keep practicing regularly. So, good. Let's take another nice deep breath here. And next, I would like to invite you to turn your attention to the bottom left quadrant, which house the activities of your mind itself, including your emotion, thoughts, memories, hopes, beliefs, dreams, and attitudes. Following which, you need to start focusing on the hub. Hub is awareness of awareness. It's you. So good. Let's take another nice deep breath here, and we'll now bring our attention to the center of the wheel. The hub, which is where your awareness stems from, and the hub is you. So you need to focus on the hub. The second last fourth quadrant that connects to the others, which is at the top bottom right side, and that is your attention for the outer world. You need to start thinking about everybody who's related to you, outside you, your friends, your family, your office colleagues, and then you have to start thinking and focusing on that quadrant and the outer world. So this is a stepwise approach. You train your mind to actually take off and on certain important aspects or quadrant in your life at a particular time. This is a mindful activity, and it will really really help you. The last step is to ground yourself. As the meditation comes to an end, simply bring your attention back to your breath as you did at the beginning of the practice. You might like to take a few deep slow breaths here to ground yourself back into the moment. Then, when you're ready, gently open the eyes. Everyone's wheel of awareness experience is unique. So will it be for you. Every time you practice this awareness wheel, make a note of first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant, fourth quadrant, your hub, which is you. And if you make a note, actually by date wise, you will start seeing a pattern of difference, and actually it will be improvement for the good. Do this practice every day, because meditation actually originated from the Latin word meditatum, which means to ponder. Through the practice of meditation, we can actually seek to find a better connection with our body in the everyday moments that we often let pass us by, and create stronger awareness for how our emotions influence our behavior. I know we are not finished yet. I still have to connect with sacred geometry, mysterious pagans, and symbols. Element symbols and their symbolic significance in our lives and healing processes. But unfortunately, we are running out of time. So before I leave, I'll give you two examples and fun facts to ponder over. this week. So, in the world of Newton and Galileo, who considered the process of observation and recorded to understand the mechanics of nature deeper and deeper, which finally was called and named as scientific method. And we live in that community, the scientific method community. So in this community of scientific method, we still have scientists who used inner reflections to prove their theories. For example, Einstein came up with the notion of unified field, not so much based upon outer observation as inner reflection. And the second best known scientist was Nikola Tesla. He knew for sure that by practicing of spirituality, understanding frequencies, and by looking within, he would be able to change the world as we know of today. He created machine to do what his body couldn't perform. He was history's genius and father of the 20th century. Who knows? One of your listeners may be the next revolutionary to take the world to a higher level of progress by looking within. Till then, we'll meet again next week, same time, same place. Goodbye and adios.